So welcome, my name is Andres. This is the Baking Steel Test Kitchen. We got Craig over here. Say hi to Craig. Hi. He's helped fielding all these questions, and we're kind of wrapping up, or it's ongoing, obviously, the sourdough. This is like our third session with the sourdough. We thought today we'd make like a small, maybe some breadsticks and like a thin crust with our sourdough dough and just experiment. But we also thought this would be a great time for you guys to kind of give us some questions that you might have, because I'm sure if you have a question, somebody else is thinking it, because there's probably a bunch of the same thoughts that are going on. So we'd love to hear them, which would be cool. In preparation for today, got the oven cranking at 500 degrees, and we're gonna do, I made a dough last night, sourdough, and I tried something different that I thought I would share with you guys. I took my sourdough and I made a 500 gram batch with, I used bread flour, and I thought I would, instead of using 100 grams of starter, I used 50. So I reduced the amount just for fun, just to experiment to see what might happen. And I bulk fermented it for about 24 hours. I made this yesterday, and I did maybe 12 hours at room temp and another 12 hours cold. And you can see it here. Removed a little bit from it to make some pizza dough, and it rose. It did its thing. It has a nice aroma to it. We're gonna cook it off today and see what difference we might have. So the recipe was this. It was 475 grams of flour, 325 grams of water, 16 grams of salt, and 50 grams of starter. And that was it. I combined everything together and I let it sit at room temp for 12 hours, then in the fridge. And this is what we got. I see some activity going on. You can see some I don't know if you can see some nice air pockets in there. And I thought, a couple of things that we can do with this. Obviously pizza. So what we did was we balled a dough up this morning. This is, what do you do? 160 gram dough ball of, we balled it up, and it's been proofing for maybe an hour. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll it out, make a thin crust pizza. I think that would be a cool thing to do. Just to see how this thing cooks up. And then also I thought maybe I'd make a couple of breadsticks, because this bread flour makes awesome flavored breadsticks. Have anyone ever made breadsticks? They're super simple, and it's almost funny that we're doing them, but why not, right? In fact, I might jump in, put these in the oven, and then we'll get to some questions right away. Does that sound cool to you guys? So how I'm gonna do breadsticks, I'm gonna put my table down here, or my camera down here so you guys can see. I'm gonna flour up. This is just bread flour. I'm gonna pull a little bit of this dough out. I'm gonna show you how easy these things are to make. Ringing. I'm gonna flour this out. I'm not gonna ball it up. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm gonna literally just kind of stretch it out. And it's gonna take a couple of minutes to kind of stretch and pull. So the flour helps this thing, makes it more manageable. Press it out a little bit, right? And there's a couple of different ways of doing these, but what I'm gonna do is literally take my dough cutter and just cut out some breadsticks. That's all I'm gonna do, right? I could roll these if I'd like, but I'm not going to. 2, I'll make 4, how's that? I've already got my baking steel really hot, and these make a great, like if you're making a cheese board, you have some guests coming over, these are packed with flavor, right? So I'm gonna drop these directly on the steel. You can see, that's all it is. Really rustic, really artisan. I'm gonna take them, I'm gonna just literally take them by hand. You guys can see, I've got my steel already heating up. I'm just gonna drop them on. I'm not worried about these things sticking to the steel, because the heat from the steel is going to make these things kind of cook. Really talented here. Right on my steel, you guys can see here. Literally just plopped them directly on. Now, if I was going to make a lot of these, if I was going to make like this whole batch of dough, I might do it in like sections and just stretch it out like I did and just make more. And instead of putting them directly on the steel, I might use a sheet tray or some parchment paper or a Sillipat. Place them all on the Sillipat, cut them all up, and place that whole sheet tray right on top of my steel just to get the benefit of the steel cooking these things. You'll remember these are in there?
Yeah.
My timer, I dropped it, actually Craig dropped it in the water. It doesn't work anymore. We're down to 0. We've lost 3 in the last 3 months. So I have some more coming. Puzzling to me how timers are not waterproof, right?
Yes.
Crazy. Anyway, so that is the breadsticks. And I might flip those over 10 minutes in. These are cooking at 450 for maybe 15 minutes. That's it. Super easy. They'll be nice and crispy at the end. They have a nice sourdough taste to them. That's it. Super simple. Put them in a glass jar. Serve them with some olives, your cheese board. The kids and the adults both just devour these things. So make a lot. And you probably eat half a dozen when you're cooking them. So simple little trick. A real crowd pleaser. Let's get to some questions. Does anybody have any questions on the sourdough starter we've been working on for like the last 2 weeks? So let's get to it. Do you guys have anything? What's going on with yours? Let's hear it.
How long can you leave the starter in the fridge before it needs to be fed?
I read a month, 30 days. Maybe every week I might go in there and feed it, just especially because it's new on the new side. So once a week I'd feed it. That's probably my rule of thumb. But you can go longer. If something happens and you have to go away, why not?
My starter's getting a little thin. I've been feeding 1-to-1, but it's still a little watery. What to do?
Oh, interesting. Okay, so now is the time. Here's what I want you to think about. Now is the time to think of the size starter that you want to work with. Like I adjusted mine to 65 grams yesterday just for fun, but I typically have about 100 grams of starter kicking around. So maybe reduce that amount that you have, mix it up first, change containers, put 25 grams of starter in and add 25 grams of water and 25 grams of starter. I guess one question I would ask is, what type of flour are you feeding your starter? And maybe you want to change that up to some all-purpose, to some rye, to some wheat. Mix them up a little bit just to try to get that thing to be active again. Does that help?
What's the difference between all-purpose and bread flour?
Really the nutrients inside, the protein content, and I guess what else would be different? The flavors, the nutrients that go inside. I'm not even sure if it's on the bag itself, but that's why we recommend, and it's obviously the protein strength. So all-purpose is softer. So I mix mine up between all-purpose and sometimes bread flour. Sometimes I add some spelt in there. I change it up constantly.
Do I need to feed it the morning of the day that I'm baking bread? Should I feed it before I use it?
That's a really good question. I feed mine every day, and I try to get mine really active when I am, I thought that was a timer. Is it?
No.
I try to get it really, you know what that might be? At least, I can't get that. I try to keep it really active the day of because I want it kind of really moving. Now, I haven't tried making pizza dough with my discard yet. And I know like when it's flat, like I consider this isn't really active right now.
Right.
I got to feed it. I know a lot of people make waffles and pancakes with their discarded starter. So I don't see why not. Why couldn't you make a pizza dough? I don't see
Absolutely.
Without it being super active. But I would just personally I like to feed mine, get it fired up, and then make my dough. But experiment.
When I move my starter to the refrigerator, should I cover it with a?
Yes.
Or yes.
Yeah, we're gonna go into the fridge. We're gonna cover it up. Yep.
Is it okay to add some starter to dough that has been cold fermenting for 4 or 5 days, or should it be added to fresh?
That's a good. I haven't tried that, but that's a great question. Are you talking about a yeasted dough?
I assume so.
Yeah, if that's a yeasted dough, adding a little starter, then mixing it in, sure, I'd give it a try. Might be a good idea. Might add some nice little flavor. But I also think you're gonna have a really good, if it's been in there for 4 or 5 days, it's gonna have some really nice flavor. One thing I haven't done is really done a long ferment with my starter yet. Like I know I gotta practice doing that. I haven't done that enough. Like this is a 24-hour dough. I made a 2-day English muffins last week with that. It was fine. I haven't really tried a 4 or 5 day with my starter yet.
Do you add any seasonings to the breadstick?
I do not. Good question. You can, yes. You could salt them. You could, didn't we sweeten some up one time? You could put some cinnamon on them to make them sweeter, kind of like any kind of bread. You could put some seeds on them. So you could either brush them with some water first, then put some seeds on them, like sesame seeds might be really good, or poppy seeds, like a bagel, the same principle. With sugar, you can make them savory or sweet. So yeah, play around. Let's check these out, in fact. Let's see, they're starting to cook. They're getting nice, getting brown on the outside. I'm gonna flip them over just for fun. They're really great to make, yeah.
Can a silpat take 500 degrees?
Yes. Only time I use a silpat, or when I do use a silpat, I do not use the broiler. So be careful. Like don't use the broiler, but for breads and things, it's fine. I'm not sure what they call out the temp. They might call it like 475.
Right.
But I mean 500 should be fine.
How soon after feeding can you use to make pizza?
Feeding the starter?
Yeah.
A couple hours. Probably right away if you wanted to. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer there.
Speaking of discard, how do you feel about feeding it in another container for tomorrow's use?
Sure.
A couple of different things.
Yeah, good idea. Yep.
Totally. Can you leave the dough ball out before you make it into pizza?
That's a really good question. So you can see we've got one here. We put it out maybe an hour and a half ago. It's covered. And we don't want direct air to hit it because it'll get it crusty. And I'm sure anybody who's been following us, that's happened to you before. There is a remedy for that, but keep it covered. I like to proof my dough. This is we're rolling out, so not as long if you're using a rolling pin. But if I'm making pizza, like 3 or 4 hours is ideal, tight. Which brings us to, if it does get a little crusty, like if the air hits it, like even a piece of it, just put a little water. Someone told me this tip like 2 weeks ago. They called and they said they poured a little water on that area and it softens it right back up again. So a little water. Is that it? I hope that answers that question.
Can we use parchment paper?
Yep. Same. Yes. Parchment all the time, all day long. Just remember, no broiler, because believe me, I've done it, and you get a fire like right away. So be careful with the broiler, especially if it's up tight.
Is there a preferred rolling surface? Wood, steel, granite, etc.?
Good question. I love wood. So you can see we got a big island here. It's nice because it doesn't seem to, the temperature stays a little bit more constant. It doesn't really get cold when it's, like the air just doesn't seem to, it's like room temperature almost, right? Yeah. It's like alive. Whereas granite or soapstone seems to be a little colder. So great for pie doughs, like the colder surfaces. I think it's a personal preference. I think whatever you have in your kitchen, you can make work. Just be mindful of that.
What is the recipe for this sourdough pizza dough?
Great question. So let's go through it really. We substitute for 500, so it's our pizza dough recipe, 500 grams of flour. It's 350 grams of water, 16 grams of salt, and 1 gram of yeast. That's our pizza dough recipe. When we substitute in starter, what we do is we take the yeast out and we put 100 grams of starter in, which is equal amounts of water and flour. So when we do that, we just reduce our water by 50 grams and our flour by 50 grams. If that makes sense. You probably don't even need to do that. You could probably just throw in your starter 100 grams into the recipe. But I just like, if I'm, whatever. That's the math that I use. Remember, starter is equal amounts of flour and water. So when we put it into our recipe, we reduce the amount of flour and water by the amount of starter that we're using. I'm gonna pause there. Just let that soak in. Hope that helps. Anybody else?
When using the broiler, what's the distance to the pizza?
So this oven, we are about 5 inches. Now, we can be aggressive because our racks slide out, right? Which makes it really helpful. Just keep in mind when you're using the, when you're raising the roof on the steel, you gotta be able to launch. So just, practice first, make sure you have enough space to get a pizza in there if your rack doesn't slide out. And by the way, this is, what do you think, 5 inches?
Probably
5 inches. Yeah. I've got plenty of room to get a pizza in without that shelf coming out. So just be mindful of that as well. But that should be enough. I like to be as close as I can because I want to get the full benefit of that broiler. But the closer I am, the more closer I have to watch it. I got to use a timer. Otherwise, I'm burning.
Should I start over if my starter is really watery and not as bubbly as it was?
No, maybe reduce, like take a lot of that out of there and start with like 20 grams of what you have and add more flour and more water and mix it and feed it like 2 times a day and like 8-hour intervals and see if you can bring it back to life again. It'll, how does the aroma, I guess that's one question. What is the aroma? What kind of flour are you using? Again, switch to wheat flour, all-purpose flour, mix and match, half and half.
Whatever you have.
Whatever you have, yeah. And flour is coming back on the shelves of markets in abundance. So you shouldn't have that. Those are probably good, huh? Yeah. So I'm gonna remove these sticks out of here. Oh yeah, they're awesome. Work fast. These look amazing. You guys can see, they are breadsticks. Are they cool? So really unique. Some good color on them. They're hot. These are great as, on your cheese board or just a great little snack just to kind of chew on, right? They're too hot for me to bite into now, but they're going to be amazing. They look cool, right? Yeah. They're savory, super simple to make, but a crowd pleaser. And, yeah, any other questions right now?
If your gas oven does not have a broiler, where should you place your steel?
My gas oven does not have a broiler. I would still use the top. I'd still go close to because you're still going to get the benefit to get the reflection down onto the steel. So you're basically creating a smaller box inside of your oven. So you get your steel, here, and you get the roof of the oven to reflect down. So I would try there first, for sure. Anybody else?
Cookbook is sold out online.
Oh no, it is. Amazon has them right now.
We actually have 50 landing today.
Oh, yeah. Are we back in?
Yeah.
Oh, you got
it back by the end of the day, it should be there.
Okay, so look online on bakingsteel.com. We will have them back up tonight, likely. So if not tonight, tomorrow. They're back in stock. Back, baby. We're back.
How can you tell if your yeast is old and no good to use?
Woo. So
tough one.
The rule of thumb there is something that we never do, but take your yeast and put it in the water and let it hydrate. And after like 5 minutes, that yeast should be bubbling and activating, right? Mm-hmm. If it's not, then you might not have active yeast. Store it in the refrigerator. Just keep that in mind. But other than that, I would just hydrate it first, the active dry yeast. And if it doesn't bubble, then maybe you have an issue. You might need to get some more.
Do you prefer feeding with AP as opposed to bread flour for feeding?
I prefer AP, yes. Yep.
Do do you make pizza on your grill?
I do, yes.
If you do make it on the grill, how do you clean your steel?
Cleaning is, we're trying to make these grill bricks more accessible to everybody. I can't stress these enough. If you have a baking steel, get to Home Depot and look for these Earthstone cleaning bricks, or Amazon, because they are, I literally use mine every single time I clean my steel. Because these, I first will take soap and water and a bench scraper, and I'll scrape it as clean as I can. More on my griddles, but if there's something tacky on my surface, like I spilled some cheese or tomato sauce, I've got to remove it. And I use these, it's a pumice stone that literally just smooths out the surface. And these are amazing. I worked at, when I was younger in high school, I still remember this. That was a long time ago. At the end of our shift, we'd have these bricks that we would literally just clean the surface with. So it makes the surface completely smooth again. I'm not worried about removing the seasoning. I just cooked on it. It's going to be fine. But this just helps smooth and clean it. And it helps keep that steel clean, and it's going to make it last forever. It's just literally just amazing. And these things really help with that. If I don't have a cleaning brick, soap and water, maybe an SOS pad, something a little abrasive to clean it. The thing you have to remember is to get it dry after you get it wet. That's it. And maybe wipe a little oil on. Canola oil, flaxseed oil, avocado oil, even olive oil, right? Coconut oil, sure, totally. Really, really thin layer after you're done, and then just put it back in your oven. You don't have to fire it up, because next time you preheat your oven, that's going to help season this thing up. And I can't stress that enough. Continue to do that. It's going to last forever.
Where can I find semolina flour?
Bob'sRedMill.com has it. Durham wheat, #1, I think they call it, or #2, I don't even know. But it's semolina flour. It's awesome. Most markets carry it also. Like, I know around here, Whole Foods has it. I didn't look today. Actually, I wasn't there today. So I was there Monday. I didn't look. But it's great. Totally try to grab some. And a bag lasts a long time.
This is a question moving into our next food. Using 2 steels in the oven, what do I do for that technique?
Ooh, good question. 2 steels. As you can, and then we're going to get into making that. Let's do that. Great question. Great segue into let's make a pizza. And I'm going to do, and I'll explain what I'm doing. So I'm going to use 2 steel. Here's what we're going to do. Let's imagine that right now I've got 10 people here, 10 kids, all lined up for cheese pizza, and they all want thin crust. So I'm going to make this pizza with that in mind, that I'm going to be making 10 of them, okay? So I'm going to take you through my process of how I would mass manufacture pizza. Because believe me, when you have 10 kids in here screaming for pizza, you better work fast. And the way I do that, and by the way, I do this often. I've got 3 ovens. 3 ovens in here, right? 6 steels, and I got 2 in each oven. If this situation does come up on a Friday night or whatever, actually not lately, but if it does, this is what I do. I fire up one of my 3 ovens. I don't even need all 3 of them. 1 oven, 2 steels, 500 degrees on convection. Preheat it for 1 hour, okay? And that's what's going on right now. So now for the dough. We balled up our dough. It's been sitting at room temperature for several hours, like call it 2 or 3, 4 hours at room temp. And what I'm going to do is, this is actually a sourdough. You see, okay, good idea. I'm going to remove it from my plate here. I'm going to coat both sides with flour, okay? And I'm going to press it out. I don't want it to stick, so I'm going to kind of pick it up. Now I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive with my pressing out here, because I know I don't want air bubbles. I want to press these things kind of out of it. And by coating both sides, and I continuously flip it so it's not going to get stuck. I might even throw some more flour on top. I can shake it off afterwards, because I'm using a rolling pin, okay? I kept it round. This is 160 grams of of dough. And now I'm just going to literally just roll it up. and turn it and roll it out. And I'm kind of squishing the air bubbles out. You can kind of see them. Smells nice. And I'm gonna turn it this way, boom, and we're done, right? This is about probably a 1/4 inch. What do you think, chef? 1/4 inch thick, which is fine. No holes, great, right? It's got a nice size to it. Pizza peel. Now, I'm gonna go through this again because this is really important. My peel, I like wood to launch. I flour it up, and I use flour and semolina flour. I brush it around. Those are my ball bearings, okay? And now what I'm gonna do is pick up my dough up and place it on top, okay? I'm gonna clean up a little bit here. It really smells nice. That's got nice sourdough going on here. So there's my dough on top. Before I do cheese or sauce or anything, I'm gonna give this thing a shake. The flour and the semolina flour are my ball bearings, and this thing should slide like a hockey puck, and it is. I'm confident. If it's not, I need to find that area that's not and pick it up and stick some more flour underneath it. More ball bearings, right? And give it a shake. It's loose like a hockey puck. So I'm confident. Now what I need to do is season it, okay? I'm gonna do, will you get me some Romano or Pecorino? Yep. I'm gonna sauce it up. This is crushed tomatoes and salt. That's it. I'm gonna sauce this thing up. Can I use the broiler in there, you think? Oh no, we're using 2 steel, so. And I bring my sauce to the edge, but not over the edge, just like life. Because this is thin crust, I'm gonna go a little closer. I don't know why I said that, but feeling the vibe. Thanks. So there's my sauce. Now I'm gonna add some layers of flavor here. I'm gonna throw some, it's like my go-to for the kids. Kids love the oregano, okay? Smells nice, smells like a pizzeria in here now. And some parm, right?
Mid-pizza question.
Yes.
Can you make thin crust with your regular 72-hour dough recipe?
100%, yep. All I would do different, by the way, this is that. All I would do different is I would use 150 grams versus 250 grams. Reduce the size because we're stretching it out. It's gonna take up more landscape. Cool with me so far? Should I use a broiler? Why not? I'm gonna switch my oven to broil, just for fun. I got some cheese on there, so before I do the other layer of cheese, I'm gonna use Fontina. I'm gonna give it a shake again. It's still loose like a hockey puck. That is critical. So now I'm confident that's gonna move. I'm gonna add my cheese, because I'm adding more weight, which is gonna make it heavier. I wanna make sure it's still loose, and it is. Now for the cheese, I'm just gonna use one type of cheese today, but, and I'm gonna repeat myself here too. Always grade your own cheese. See all these individual strands? When you buy it in a bag, these cheese strands are coated in starch, which makes them not stick together, but it also, they tend to brown too fast. So we always buy our own chunk of cheese and grate it ourselves. Okay, so I've done that. Got my cheese on here. I'm gonna add a little bit more. My cheese done. That's my canvas. I've painted it. It looks pretty good. It smells pretty amazing. As you can see, I'm not heavy on my toppings. We always say our mantra, less is more. I'm gonna give it a shake one more time. All right, I'm still loose. And now I wanna do, is it gone? Is it going? Okay. I'll launch. And now if you guys wanna watch me launch, okay, open the oven up, back of the peel to the back of the steel, and I just shake off that hockey puck. Boom, right? Close her up. And now what I'm gonna do is put my timer on for 2 minutes. Let's see here. How do I do this? Timer. Sorry, guys. Timer. 2 minutes. Probably longer than that. 2 minutes on my timer. It's not as critical here because I'm. Is the broiler even on? I kind of waited. Craig told me the broiler was ripping hot. It was on. It was red. I knew, so he gave me the confidence I could go in. If I was by myself, I would actually wait until that broiler was on before I launched. Because I'm making I'm not as particular with my thin crust as I would be if I was doing a typical like Neapolitan style. But for thin crust, 2 minutes on the broiler. Now, let's explain what's going on. I'm doing the top steel for 2 minutes. And then what I'm gonna do, because remember, I've got 10 kids screaming here, right? I'm gonna move that top steel pizza to the bottom steel, and then I'm gonna launch a new one on the top. So imagine that I'm making my next pizza right now, okay? And when 2 minutes is up, I'm ready to launch a new one. And at the same time, I'm gonna move that to the bottom. So it's gonna be a cycle. And essentially every 2 minutes, I'm able to make a pizza. I might let that top steel rebound for a minute in between, but it's more or less every 2 to 3 minutes, a new pizza is coming out and a new one is going in. Does that make sense? So that's the benefit of having more steel estate inside my oven. And that's why we use 2 steels. That's the real true benefit of it. And I can make 10 kids really happy in literally like 15 minutes. I can have them all fed. And then it's the adults' turn and I can take a little chill and enjoy myself and make pizzas a little bit more. Although it's still enjoyable, just you work up a sweat.
Could you go backwards from the bottom steel to the top?
Yeah, but then you're not gonna really benefit from that, the broiler. I like the initial broil. So let's take a peek. In fact, that's been 2 minutes. We look. It's sizzling nice, right? And you know what? I've got a little color on top, which I'm actually pretty pleased with. Maybe like 30 more seconds. Actually, no, I don't even need to do that. I forgot. We're multiple pizza. I don't have time. I'm going to move this to the bottom. See, I can do this. I'm going to dust off my steel. And I clean them off in between. Always keep your steel clean in between. That's really pretty, by the way. That pizza looks gorgeous. I always give my steel a swipe in between rounds, even the top. If I was putting a new one in, I'm going to swipe this clean quick. I always want a clean surface to cook on. Critical, I think, because I don't want too much. In fact, which brings me to, less is more. When I'm launching in, I dust up my peel. I don't want to have too much on there, but you got to be careful because the #1 goal is to get this into the oven. So if it takes too much flour and semolina flour, that's all right. The better you get, the less you will use, the less you will need to get into the oven. Is that kind of what your rule of thumb is too, Chef? So less is more, but the goal is to get it in. So I'm going to put the timer on for maybe 2 more minutes, and we're good. We're done. That thing's going to be cooked beautifully. 4 minutes pizza. Thin crust of maybe 5 minutes. I didn't take that in consideration. I really want to crisp it up.
Where did you get that cheese grater?
I'm glad you asked. This is called the Wonder Shredder. There's some old patent numbers on it, and I'm guessing we looked these up at some point. I think it was like 1920. I was at a flea market, and when we were doing our book, Baking with Steel, I was looking for props with my son in Michigan, and by Saugatuck, I believe it was. And we went into the shop and bought a few things. This was one of my favorites. But it's really practical. It's interesting enough. Yeah. It makes really big shreds of cheese, which I find actually melt really nice compared to like the tiny shreds. I really like it. It's great. It's called the Wonder Shredder. I bet if you looked on eBay, you could find this. I paid like $12.
Somebody wants us to manufacture Wonder Shredders for all of us.
You know, that's a good idea. That's a great idea. This could be a stainless.
Yeah.
Could be plated steel. You know what? Keep that in mind. Keep that. If we can make
Wonder
these, we might do that. It's really cool.
Everyone wants a Wonder Shredder.
It's really cool. It's a great idea. Keep me posted. Send me some emails or Instagrams on that. We'll look into it. What else do you guys have for questions?
That was the last one.
That's the last one. Nice. I have one that my mom.
It's super patented. Someone says they have one just like that. Yeah, that's funny.
It's super patented. Well, the patents are way expired, so we're good.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about that.
What about putting your pizza dough in the oven for 2 minutes to set the shape and then take it out and build your pizza and then put it back in?
You could. That's been 2 more minutes. So you could do that.
It usually puff up in the center of the
Yeah. I don't like to par bake my doughs. Only I'd say if I was trying to mass produce, I might pre-stretch them out. I might pre-stretch my doughs and coat them in flour on my table here, because I can really crank them. But I wouldn't par bake them. I don't think you need to. I don't think it's, I don't think it's not necessary. Let's check this pizza out. How are we looking? Okay, great. This looks awesome. Can you guys see this? It's really cool. I probably could have done that. Maybe the bottom's awesome. Oh, it's hot.
$125 for a Wonder Shredder.
Is that what it says?
Yeah.
You look one up? Really?
Someone just said 75 to 125 too.
Wow, I should sell this thing, huh? Retire. Anyway, let's check this thing out. Do you guys see this? It's really beautiful. Sourdough crust, thin crust. I could have rolled it out even thinner, but whatever. I want to put some basil on at the end, or maybe just some more cheese, right? Just grate it on there. It's gonna make a lot of kids very happy. And it's, 4 or 5 minutes pizza bake in a home oven on a baking steel, literally and this smells unbelievable. This is gonna be as good as it gets. I mean, incredible.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Smells great. Anybody else have a question? Any questions? No? All right.
Everyone's looking for Wonder Shredders.
Wonder Shredders. You know what? If anybody can find a bunch, we'll try to make some. All right? Great idea. The Wonder Shredder. Yeah, cool. It's a great name too. But thank you guys. Hey, listen, it's 4th of July. Be safe, be smart, be healthy, make some great pizzas. And thank you guys for being here today. Any questions, please email us, info@bakingsteel. I'm Andres, got Craig over there. We're grateful that we're able to do these classes with you. So thanks, guys. Be great. Be great. Be legendary. Bye-bye.